Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Eric, and today we're going to talk about, dealing with anxiety and some of the coping skills that can help you with it, and also when it's gotten to the point of where you actually need some type of help from the mental health community itself. So, first thing you need to understand is everybody has day-to-day stressors, whether it's their job, the kids, money, you name it. Everybody has stress. Now, the difference between normal stress and stress that's gone to the next level to where you may need to seek professional help is when the anxiety never stops. Even when things are going really good for you, you're having panic attacks. And panic attacks are very disabling. And they feel just like you're having a heart attack. Your breathing, your chest. Now, having numerous panic attacks is not considered normal. Okay, that's not normal stress. That's something that is serotonins, to the brain. But if you find yourself having panic attacks and you find yourself, stressed all the time, even when there aren't really a stressor, then I would start with just my primary physician. Explain to him what's going on with you, and if he or she, or a nurse practitioner, if he or she does not feel comfortable in doing that part of healthcare, then they will send you out to someone that is qualified in that field. And a lot of them do it, don't. But, so let's start off with how to reduce stress. All right, so one of the things that I do is I look at any situation and say, is there anything that I can do right now to reduce that stress? Is there anything I can do right now that can't wait till tomorrow? Because even I find that I'll get really stressed out over something for a week, get it resolved, and then wonder why I spent the whole week stressing about it, and because it just takes up so much of your time because you're just stressed out. Being stressed out is somewhat disabling too, because then you start to get a little bit maybe pissy with the wife or husband, the kids, they're driving you nuts, and it's coming out in other forms, in anger and resentment. So one of the things that I practice, and it's helped me out a lot, but is that I believe in God, the man upstairs. It can be an alien to you or whoever, but you got to have somebody that's got more power than you have. And one of the things that works really well for me is at the end of the day, I thank the good Lord for another good day, and that anything that's on my plate for that day, I give up to Him. And by doing so, it'll still be there in the morning. But if you're sitting there laying in bed and that's all you're thinking about, you're not going to get a restful sleep. It's just going to be constant, and by doing that, I get a good night's sleep. And a lot of times, that thing that was stressing me that day and into the evening, when I finally turned it up to God, the next morning it wasn't so bad. It's like I got a good night's rest. Now I'm looking at it in a different view. Let's take care of it. You have to find out what is actually stressing you. It could be, A, over here, but actually it's B and you're blaming it on A. So you have to sit down and think about it really, when you say, oh, I'm stressing over money. Well, money in general, I mean, is something you can't eat, and is the way I look at it is as long as I've got food on my table, a roof over my head, I'm able to stay warm or cool in the summer, and that's your basics. That's where you come back to as far as when it comes to stress is as long as your bases are covered, then a lot of the other stuff, is not worth stressing about. One of the things that I used to do as a college student, I went back to school when I was in my 30s, is I would stress myself out before a test, thinking I couldn't do it. I mean, it would psych me right out. And I would whine, basically, to my wife about how I was a failure, I was going to fail, and she would feel bad for me. She'd make me an omelet with toast and tell me not to worry about it. And then the next day I went in and come to find out I got an A on it. And then she's like, all that and you still got an A? Yeah. So if you can identify what's stressing you and rank it from like a 1 to 10, 10 being the most. If it's a relationship that's stressing you, what about the relationship? It's not just the relationship. It's something within the relationship, whether it's spending time together, doing things together, little random acts of kindness, forgetting to get a Valentine's card, some chocolates, to feeling like they've fallen out of love. And a lot of times that's a communication thing, but they can't communicate because you can't figure out what the stressor is. And if you can identify the stressor, most often it's not in general the relationship. There's a certain aspect that's causing the stress. I used to have wicked anxieties before getting into treatment, and that was where I had professional help involved. And my biggest anxieties were I wasn't good enough, and everybody hated me and were talking bad about me, and it used to bother me a lot. And my wife told me one day, she said, you know what? You're not that important. And I'm just kind of like, what? She goes, yep, you're not that important. I said, that's not a nice thing to say to me. She says, well, it's true. People have their own issues. They're not walking around all day long thinking about you and how they either hate you or like you or what have you. They're dealing with their own crap. Do you walk around and hate people all day long and think bad things? No. You're looking at yourself. So basically, to keep the language somewhat clean, most people have got their heads so far up their own asses that they haven't got a clue about what's going on with you. And that's the truth. And at the time, I thought, how rude. But the following day, I got to thinking about it, and I couldn't stop laughing because she was right. It's one thing when you're married to a registered psych nurse. They kind of be blunt with what they have to say to you. But she was right, and that brought in a lot of things into view of, wait a minute, why am I stressing about all these things when I know for a fact that these aren't true. So you can take those stressors and throw them away. If you in your own life right now are feeling the same as I did back then, of that, everybody hated you, you didn't think you were good enough, you didn't think you measured up, people talking about you, you aren't that important. You are important, but not that important. And I hope you'll get a laugh out of that tomorrow. I mean, I know it's kind of rude, but I'm just telling it just like I was told and how I reacted. But when you're talking about stress, you also have good stress. And good stress, bad stress is still stress. So one of the things that you can do, I don't know how you guys are with journaling. I mean, whether you use a notebook or just use your laptop or your computer, and start jotting things down that are bothering you. If it's relationship issues, try to figure out what in that relationship is causing you stress. And a lot of times that stress can be resolved with communicating with each other. You're both still very much in love. You just have lost the art of communication. Whether it's because you're working so hard at your job with the kids, you don't have the time, you're not talking to each other. It's easy. It's very easy to have this happen to you. So if it is happening to you, you're not alone. As you just described the majority of most couples these days. And that's the sad thing. A lot of people don't stay together, and with these divorces and so forth, is they just stop communicating and letting each other know how important they are to one another. So with journaling, if you can sit down and write down, at the top of the page, the biggest stressors going on right now in your life, and then bring some arrows down to, okay, if it's relationship up here, bring the arrows down. Is it the kids? Is it the husband? Is it the dog? Or is it all above? Is it in-laws? Is it siblings? Try to figure out the root cause of that anxiety, and then you can work on that. The other thing is you can do what they call breathing exercises to help you reduce stress, especially if you start having a panic attack. Just take some nice deep breaths and say everything's going to be okay. A lot of people take and they'll exercise. That helps reduce stress. But if you're sitting there and you feel like you're right about on the edge, please seek professional help. And you need to reach out and say, I need help. It doesn't make you any less human to say, I need help. A lot of people, that's a big hurdle to overcome, to ask anybody for help. But those same people, like you and I, would jump over high fences to go help somebody else. But yet we're the ones that very rarely ask for help because we feel like it's undeserving, that we don't deserve it, when we do. So the first thing is you need to be vocal, whether it's to your spouse or to your primary caregiver, your doctor, nurse practitioner, or there is hotlines that you can call. You can call what they call reach out in some areas. You can call the ER and ask for, directions that you can go for help. You can call your local outreach clinics for mental health. I know in our area it's hard to get in. The sad thing is to be seen. You have to say you're going to commit suicide and get put inpatient for 72 hours. And then it's guaranteed that you'll see someone that you need to see within 4 days. Other than that, you get put on a waiting list, and it's way, way out. But I don't want to discourage you from seeking out and trying to get help. But if it's just normal everyday stress, like we've discussed here, then hopefully I've given you some ideas of what to work on. And if you like the content that I'm providing here, I feel like I'm sitting in the living room just talking to you. Then could you please like and subscribe? And then in the comments, if you have any questions, or comments or things that have helped you that might help everybody else that are coming to the channel, please post them. I read all the comments and I answer all the comments. But until then, reduce your stress. You're not that important. And if it's to where you're on the edge, please get professional help. On that note, you have a good day.